Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's a bye week. It's not typical to have a bye this late, but we're going to take it. Just reviewing the San Diego State game. Going into the game, felt like they were the most physical team in the conference, and after the game, I'd definitely say that that was the case. It was a hard-fought game, and they're an excellent football team. We did not sustain any significant injuries. However, a lot of bumps, bruises, blood, stitches, an old-fashioned game. So does not surprise me, and I think there'll be a team to be reckoned with. So we'll utilize this week to work on fundamentals and get healed up, and we'll practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I don't believe we'll have Tanner Gentry back, but some of the guys who were in backup positions were Justice Murphy, C.J. Jennings should be able to be returning this week.
Craig, were there some what positives would you draw? I mean,
Yeah.
we saw evident it was a physical game.
It was a
Would you draw any positives from San Diego State?
You know what? I thought our defensive front played better than what they did against Colorado State, even though San Diego State, accumulated quite a bit of rushing yardage. I think, you can look at a lot of those yards, not a lot, but significant, were in that last drive or two, and we got worn down. But up until that time, I thought we competed in there and fought the front seven guys, and so that was positive. I thought our guys competed defensively, made a field goal. That's positive. I know you chuckle on that, but that's an accomplishment. But I think probably the biggest thing was just the way our corners challenged their receivers. There were man-to-man situations a lot, and they competed. I know we got they hit a back shoulder fade on Antonio Hall, and they hit one on Robert in the end zone. But I thought those guys are good receivers, and they competed. So from that standpoint, that's a positive thing.
In your coaching career, have you ever had a bye where you have a bye and then you play your last game of the season? Have you ever experienced anything kind of like this?
No, it's unique. But as football coaches, you try to adjust and you play the schedule that you're given, and so that's where we're at, and that's what we're doing. I can tell you after the game, our guys put it all on the line. That they'll need this week to get healed up. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a locker room where, it looked like a 16-round fight against Evander Holyfield. But going on the field, when you saw San Diego State, you knew it was going to be that type of game.
Coach, Eddie Yarbrough, obviously he's turned in a great career here, but this season obviously was able to get over the career tax for loss mark. What have you seen from him this year, and what does he make to your team?
Well, he's establishing a great foundation for the future as far as leadership, number one. Because in the midst of all the challenging times, the attitude in practice and the competitiveness in the game has been positive, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to some of our seniors, Eddie being one of them. Certainly it's great to see him playing the way he was and coming up with a sack. I know this will be his last game here at the University of Wyoming. It means a great deal for him, and so it's been rewarding to see him come up with some great accomplishments like that sack.
Craig, I assume that later in the week you'll have coaches go out recruiting, because you send a lot of your assistants out. You're going all over the place. I'm not going to ask who you're recruiting, but
No.
what will you guys do with
We
that?
will be, you'll have the whole staff out. And so we've taken we had a lot of guys out last weekend. We'll use up all our evaluation days. I think we're ahead of the curve. We're certainly ahead of where we were last year in recruiting. And, we've had a mapped out strategy for probably 3 weeks how to utilize this week.
Craig, I know, perceptions out there, all the teams struggling, it's got to make it hard on recruiting. What would you say to that? And I would think that there's a lot more that goes into these kids' decisions than just seeing what's going on during a season. Is that fair, or how would you kind of assess that?
Well, I'd say it's been, I don't want to say the exact opposite, but we've been given a great response in recruiting. And I've coached 30-some years. I can tell you one of the hardest years that I was part of the staff. We had won back-to-back national championships at Nebraska and beaten Florida, and we had a hard time recruiting that year. And a lot of it was perceived that guys wouldn't have an opportunity to play. We've held all our commitments. We are on the cusp of receiving some more commitments. And I think there's a couple things for that, Robert. First of all, people see the direction of the commitment with the high altitude training center. Our coaching staff has been engaged. They've been positive. They've had some feedback from people around. The program is headed in the right direction. The guys who have taken official visits have visited with our current players, and they see the trajectory of the program. And so from a standpoint of recruiting backing off, we have not seen that. And, you always get concerned, okay, how's that going to be perceived? You come up with another loss, but we have not found that. And history tells me that's not been the case. Many times the best recruiting years we've had have come off difficult years. And so we feel like we're in a great recruiting cycle here, and that's not rhetoric, that's facts.
One of your better recruits from last year, Andrew Winter, went over 100 tackles on the season. First freshman, and I don't know, Tim said it's going to take a recruiting or a research project to figure out the last time someone did that. What's his year been like?
To say that he's exceeded our expectations, I don't think that's accurate. I knew a lot about Andrew and knew his dad. Coached his dad. And he was a Gatorade Player of the Year in Colorado. He was competitive. When I watched him play, his ability to tackle has been a little bit better than I thought. His competitive nature has not. I would like to think that we'll have a year next year where our safety won't be our leading tackler. There's some good things with that, but way too many opportunities for tackles. But he has delivered. He's answered the bell in every game, and I thought, Saturday night was a big stage, and he performed very well.
I saw Rafe start at center,
Mhm.
played most of the game at center. Is Charlie hurt, or is that just a performance decision? What's kind of happening
A
there?
couple things went into it. We saw some trends in practice where Rafe had, started to continue to improve on some of his assignments. Charlie's a little bit nicked up right now, and we felt like the best chance to win was to play Rafe that game. Both of them guys are available this next game, but that's how that decision was made. Any other questions? Okay, boy, that was a short press conference. Bye week. All right.
That's great.
You bet.
You